Now for Top Billing's Duran Duran exclusive. Arguably the biggest pop rock band of the 80s, they led a highly styled movement dubbed the New Romantics. They headed the biggest British music invasion of America since the Beatles. And this week, frontman Simon LeBon and Roger Taylor take us on a lightning tour of their career, right up to the new album, Paper Gods.
Now I've got to ask, band dynamics. Who's the joker? Who's the serious one? Who's the one who's always hungry?
We're all very different. We're all very, very different. And I think that's what really makes it a great band.
Everything that Jay said, I thought, yeah, that's me. Yeah, who's the joker? Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Who's the serious one? Yeah,
it's a nice bunch of blokes.
Who's the one who's always hungry? Yeah, it's definitely me. That's what happens when you're a vegan.
So you've obviously formed a close bond, and you all know each other very well, and together you've sold over 100 million records, and now you haven't stopped. You now releasing your 14th studio album.
Yeah, absolutely.
How have you managed to adjust to the different times and keep it young?
We keep just pushing the bar up, don't we?
Yeah, and I think don't take those statistics too seriously. We don't sit there and think, oh, we've sold 100 million records. Aren't we incredible? We try and look forward, and we don't try and look at what we've achieved too much, because I think that kind of pulls you back a bit. So we're very forward-looking, and for us, we have to keep very much in the future. Yeah, don't get too caught up in your own hype and what you've done.
We've got a lot of affection for each other, we've got a lot of respect for each other, and a lot of tolerance for the little things, the rough edges that you don't want them to rub off, because that's kind of what makes people interesting. And we've just learned to live with each other. We make the best music that we can make when the four of us are all together. And we make new music which keeps us excited.
You formed the band in 1978. How did you eventually start? How did you start the band?
Nick and John started the band in 1978. They were like an art school freaky combo. I think they had a clarinet in the band, and John played guitar badly. Nick was also a guitarist, but somebody suggested he bought a keyboard, so he went out and bought his mum bought him a Wasp. That's the story anyway. And he found that it was much easier to play with one finger on a Wasp than it was to try and play with two hands on the guitar. So immediately he became the keyboard player for Duran Duran. Later on, Roger arrived on the scene. They won him in a raffle. I actually was dropped from parachute when I was out on a university skydiving course.
And you accidentally fell through the roof.
I fell through the roof of the Rum Runner, landed there by the microphone, got up, threw off my parachute and said, right, guys, this is me. I'm lead singer of Duran Duran. So there you have it.
How did you establish your look?
What you needed to do was you needed to have something that made you identifiable. Punk itself was very colourful, but what happened after punk, the post-punk thing, was kind of industrial and grey and utilitarian, and we were very much a reaction to that. So we wanted colour and brightness. We wanted sunshine in our kind of. We wanted to kind of imply something optimistic and hopeful, something to live for, something to kind of get out of the depression for. It was an amazing time. It was an amazing time for music and for fashion and for everything. It was, things were starting. It was like coming out of a long dark night into the daytime.
Coming out of an oil crisis and austerity, the world wanted to lose itself in their heady videos, and it did. Pre-internet or social media, they went global by TV. Today, they bring a more questioning commentary to the state of things.
Paper Gods, where did you get the name from?
It came from the song Paper Gods. It was the first phrase that I came up with when I was writing the lyric for that song. It fitted right into the chorus, bow to the paper god. And it's kind of this idea that money seems to be more important than anything, that materialism is taking over, whereas the spiritualism, the idea that somebody's fashion whimsy in the Western world, and the ramifications of it are some kid in a sweatshop in Delhi. And if we were killing ourselves completely, putting an end to the human race, would anybody really care?
How long did it take you to do the album from start to finish?
It was more than 2 years.
Yeah. Wow.
We sat down in the beginning of the album, we said we're going to take our time. We're going to make a great album no matter how long it takes. Because the last album was very successful for us. Produced by Mark Ronson. It was a kind of return to our roots, which really pleased our hardcore kind of fan base, but it kind of spread from there. So it was a big album for us. So we knew that this had to be a really incredible album. And just take our time when we did.
Yeah,
and it was only when the record was finished and we were absolutely, completely pleased with it that we called an end to the sessions. But I think it's been worth it. It's a great album. I think John describes it as epic, actually, the record. So,
where do you draw your inspiration from?
There's some kind of a filter process going on whereby all the stuff you take, with me anyway, with all the stuff I take in, whether it's music I take in or TV and film that I take in or just walking around, it kind of goes in the top there and there's this kind of filter system and it ends up coming out through here, you know?
The band's hit single Rio was such a smash, partly thanks to the exotic yachting video, which then saw Simon LeBon embark on a love affair with sailing. When his yacht, Drum, capsized in a race in '85, he was caught inside along with several crew members, but thankfully rescued by helicopter.
How did it impact the band, and did it change the way you viewed life and your outlook on life?
Yeah, well, it definitely changed the way I looked at life. I realised that life is something you've got to hold on to really tightly. You know, I think like most young people, I was a little cavalier. I was rash. I did some rash things. That wasn't a rash thing, but it makes you just a little bit aware, a little bit more careful, a little bit more grateful to be alive, a little bit more in wonder of how amazing life is as well.
What advice would you give to up-and-coming musicians?
Write. Keep writing music. It's the most important thing you do. It's what everything is based on. It's based on songwriting. I really have a lot of sympathy and a little pity for these people who don't write. You know, a lot of these people who go up on television for competition, performance shows and things, they don't write anything. And they are just not in control of their own career at all. If you write music and songs, you are, to the greatest extent possible, in control of your own career.
Think very carefully about your decisions, because once you've let a cat out of the bag, you can't get it back. You know, and it can be your credibility that's at risk. So I think just think very carefully about everything that you do, everything you release, every photograph that you take.
Well, before I love and leave you, can we ever expect you in South Africa? Coming to perform, especially.
You know, Roger and I came to South Africa in 1982. We've been back a couple of times. I came back with, we came back in 1993. We were the first band to play after apartheid finished. And we had a great tour there. We had a wonderful time. I'd love to come back.
Well, thank you so much
for
being here.
Lovely to speak to you.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.